Hello and welcome to another video where, as you can see, it is finally time to test fit on the new prototype suit of powered armour. But first, for anyone new to the channel, I am on a quest to build my own powered armoured exoskeleton, my own suit of power armour, with the intention of designing and building one that isn't just fit for a sci-fi fictional setting, but is of a design that will be functional, practical and actually usable, and a design that could be made in a Western country like the United Kingdom, which I reside in. We are now on the Mark V prototype, which hopefully will be the last one I'll be doing for a while. This has a full carbon fibre exoskeleton with a composite armour of ceramic and other materials bolted onto the top of it. But in this video, it is time for a test fit to make sure it all still fits right. I've tried the exoskeleton on in previous videos and the armour with just the casing, but not with everything fully loaded. Once I've made sure it all still fits right, it'll then be time to actually power the suit. So we'll go over, put the suit on, do some ability checks, and then we'll come back here as there's a few things that I want to go over that I didn't have time for in the previous video. Now, something that has become evident to me because I'm doing this on my own with very little funding is the need to be able to take this suit on and off by yourself, particularly when it's also unpowered. And also the need to be able to transport this suit and physically move it around on your own without any help. Which is why I've designed the suit to be able to be put on in multiple pieces to make it actually manageable. So the legs go on first, and then the torso pieces, and then of course the helmet last. Something I will note before we finally put it on is I've been trying to film this video for about 3 weeks, and each time I've gone to put the suit on, I've been like, oh, I just need to adjust that little part, this little part, etc. So I've actually got a reduced amount of movement in the spine just to make sure it all stands up and sits nicely as it does here, which makes it easier to put on. It will mean that some mobility is reduced in comparison to other videos, particularly on the exoskeleton, but I'll be able to add that back in later. As mentioned in the previous videos, I've been able to put on a plate carrier into the exoskeleton, which could have plates in it to add further protection, which that does make it way easier to get it fitted onto the user and kind of secures you in nicely. So without further ado, we'll get it put on, starting with the legs first, moving on to the torso. The legs are something that I'm very pleased with, even though they don't have any neoprene foam lining attached to them yet. With just joggers or jeans underneath, they're still very comfortable and fit very well. The only negative really at the minute is the strapping, which is frankly a little bit tricky to do. You've got to loop the straps round through some holes and then pull them tight. I'm going to replace this with a quick release and quick attachment mechanism in the future. But I will have to remake some parts of the carbon fibre exoskeleton to do this, and I don't want to cost myself extra money. So that will be at a later date. In the meantime though, you can see how well you can move around in them. All the exoskeleton providing all the movement that is required in the ankles for you to move naturally, while being able to get pretty good deflection at the knee point. And even though, as you see them now, they are unpowered and they do weigh 11 kilos each, which I think is about 23 pounds each, because of how well they fit, they don't really harm agility too much. I've also changed the soles of the boots, which have the tread on them, to a softer variant with more foaming, just to try and make it quieter to walk in. I did have concerns about balance, but as you can see, I can balance pretty well in them to say I've got that extra weight on me. The biggest improvement on the legs versus the old prototype is the fact that I can actually get up and down stairs without it feeling like a death sentence. In the old suit, it was honestly incredibly sketchy trying to do it. And with the weight of the suit, if it does feel like you're going to lose balance and fall, you're probably going to break your neck doing it. But I can report with this prototype, it is way better and feels a lot more natural. Moving on to putting the torso on, the idea is you can just put the torso on anything roughly hip or waist height, whether that's a bench or say a bonnet of a vehicle. That way you don't need a specialist frame to actually put the suit on, or any help for that matter. You put the plate carrier on first and then hook in the hips. There's also a belt to go on as well to help secure yourself into the hip points. And then it's time to put on the arms, which again are a little bit tricky like the legs because they still use the Velcro strap. Again, quick release fittings to be fitted later on. But then once the arms are on, it's time to put the chest plate on, which hooks into some fittings at the top and then Velcros on around the waist. and then just lift off from whatever you've propped the torso of the suit on. And that is the suit fully on. Now I do have to be a little bit careful in this video because I still have some 3D printed parts, namely the center hubs for the mock-up actuators, so I can't move too briskly. But as you can see, I've got decent movement up and down, all up and around on the arms. There's still some little experiments I want to do with the arms, just to see if I can make it more comfortable, but overall, yeah, I think it fits pretty well, really. Now, something you will probably notice is there's quite big gaps around the sides of the chest, which isn't great for armour protection. The trouble is you need to be able to bring your arms in like this to do things, which means your chest plate has to be narrower and your pauldrons can't be too big. However, with this Halo SMG raised up, you can see how the arms provide good protection where those gaps are on the chest plate. As for the latest helmet design, while I'm happy with it overall, there was a couple of things I was guessing at when I was designing it. Mainly how high it needed to be at the back so I could still look up, and whether the sides of the helmet would clash with the chest plate. Also, as I'm sure you can tell, there is a massive gap between the chest and the helmet where the neck is unprotected. I am of course going to make an armoured collar that fits onto this, but I did need a reference point, i.e. some screenshots from this video, so I could work out how high I need to make the collar. So it covers the helmet, and hopefully I'll actually be able to reduce the size of the helmet as well, as I'll be able to increase protection from the neck collar. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with this suit so far. It's certainly better than the previous prototype, especially with the legs. The torso and upper section, apart from a severe lack of padding, feels pretty good, it fits well, and even though there are some 3D printed parts still on the exoskeleton, I can feel it try to hold the weight of the armour. The only modification I might try to do is for the arms, while the forearms feel pretty good and it all feels natural being held in sleeves, the rotational weight of the upper arm does feel slightly unnatural. So I might try some different designs for that in the future, but we'll see. Oh, and something that might not be immediately evident is why the chest plate is so short. Well, the reason is when you've got the leg armour and you go to sit down, like you can see here, you can see how if the chest plate is any longer, then it'll start to clash with the thighs. Hence why the groin pad / lower torso cover will have to be so big. That is also something that I needed this video for as a reference point, so I can make that cover for a future video. Now, something I probably don't mention enough on this channel is what is the actual use case for said power armour. Now, there's the past and the present version of that to me, which is things like room clearing. It's having some protection against FPV drones, at least the small ones, and some full body protection on shrapnel from things like 155 rounds and general IED blasts. But when I think of the future, and I see more and more drones, more and more robotics, more and more humanoid robotics, when I think about that drone and humanoid robot filled future, how on earth can a human being survive? Because while it'd be great if all future wars were fought purely by drones and robots, the reality is it's not really a war until human beings end up being involved. Until human beings are involved, it's really just tit for tat damaging each other's property. Eventually, the drones and robots from either side are going to get in contact with actual human beings. And when I think about directed energy weapons, when I think about explosives, lasers, so on and so on, the only way I can think of human beings actually being able to survive in that scenario is with power armour. With that said, there's not much more I can do manoeuvring around in this suit without risking breaking those plastic parts. So we'll go back to the studio and take a look at where the batteries are going to be housed, how I intend on protecting them, and how I intend on protecting the user against the batteries. So, back to the studio. As you've already seen, this is where the electronics and the batteries are going to be kept. Now, there is a bit of a compromise with all of this because it's a case of how much do you want to armour the compartments that hold the batteries versus armouring the back plate of the suit without basically adding too much armour to it and increasing weight by an outrageous amount. You've kind of got one option where you heavily armour the batteries and everything, and as long as the batteries and electronics stay on the suit, then it means you've got armour plating on the back. But if you had to ditch the batteries for some reason, for example in case of fire, then you would have no armour on the back plate. Or you have the armour on the back plate, but then you don't have armour covering the electronics and the batteries, which is obviously not a good idea either. So I've kind of gone for the compromise of both of these. So on the sides of these boxes, on the sides of these casings, we've got just one layer of ceramic plating on the inside. And then each cover has a layer of ceramic plating on as well, which you can see how it fits in there. And then on the inside of here, there's then a 10mm sheet of polycarbonate, which is good for catching shrapnel coming through the ceramic. But what it's also good for is machining bolt holes and fittings into, which you can't really do with ceramic. And then for the back plate of the suit where these mount onto, that is also 10mm of polycarbonate. Again, great for mounting points, bolt holes, fittings, while also providing a good amount of protection, as I know 10mm of polycarbonate does just stop 22 alarm. So while I haven't been able to test this yet, you can imagine a round coming through the ceramic, maybe it has to go through batteries, which would be in fireproof boxes, and then into two 10mm layers of polycarbonate before it hits the user, making it, at least in my mind, an acceptable level of protection, again, for this amount of money that I have. But the thing that people always rightly point out is, what about if you have those batteries catch fire? You need to be able to get out the suit very quickly, or at least get rid of the batteries. Realistically, unless you have an Iron Man suit or a suit from Fallout, you're never going to get out of these suits that quickly. So I think the better way to do it is to ditch the power pack off the back of it. For that, we have a tab around the other side. So we have this bar that runs through the back of the battery section, which basically locks the battery section on. We'll have a wire coming off of it, fastened to the side of the suit, so the operator can always grab this wire, extend his arm out sideways, and then yank the bar out of the side. This bar, as you can tell, is currently 3D printed, but I'm gonna use, I reckon, 2 or 3mm aluminium, because you kind of want it to be a little bit softer, unlike steel, so it can't get caught in anywhere, but it needs to have a bit of flex and bend, so when you pull it, it can't get stuck. With the idea being that the operator can then give a shake, which if their back's on fire, I'm sure they'll be doing anyway, and the battery pack will simply fall off. You can see how the bar goes through the back of the battery pack like so, and then there's 2 prongs here and here where it hangs off of in place. I will just note while we're here, because you can probably tell at this point, I'm overall very pleased with the quality of this suit, particularly compared to the previous prototype. However, I did have some problems with this back piece. Try to get the ceramic to bond with everything, to then bond into a polycarbonate backplate and then onto the 3D printed casings. All of this turned out to be quite a pain. So I do think in the future I need to redo this backplate and basically do all of this back section out of 10mm polycarbonate, form the entire thing as one piece to shape, and then mount the ceramic over the top of it. That way all of this finish will be perfect and machined much better, with less use of silicone to fill gaps. But it will do for now, as the main plan is to use batteries for this. I do also want to keep it open for having a little diesel generator or petrol generator in there as well. So I don't mind having to redo this backplate last. One other thing that I'm at a bit of a quandary at, which you can answer me with your opinion down in the comment section, is what I should do with the inner layer of the armour. In previous videos, what I found is I really needed around a 1mm layer of steel on the inside of the ceramic to stop anything coming through and to act as a good backplate, which helps the ceramic absorb the impact and energy from the round. The one problem is with fitting this steel layer is trying to get the steel to then bond to the ceramic, to the casings, to all of the resins is going to be quite difficult to get it to really adhere to it. I've then got to individually weld nut inserts into it to then allow it to be bolted onto the exoskeleton, which the inside layer that you're now seeing is 3D print with nut inserts melted into place. Works great for videos like this, but obviously has no real shrapnel protection to it. The other options are to use around 3mm of aluminium instead of 1mm of steel, or to use between 6 and 10mm of plastics, most likely polycarbonate, all of which, with those differences in thicknesses, basically weigh the same, and each one should have the desired effect on the ballistic side. The only issue is if I go to the thicker plastic, then the armour itself is going to be thicker, which isn't ideal. Maybe some parts might not fit as well. But I should be able to get the plastic to bond better. I can also machine the plastic, whereas I can't machine the steel. I've got to get that done, so on and so on. So what do you guys think? Do you think I need to accept that the armour has to be thicker and use polycarbonate, or struggle and keep going with the steel and try get it to get bonded in? But in the next video, I'll be going over that helmet design and how it always ends up coming back to looking like Halo ODST, no matter what design I end up going with. I'll go over the trials and tribulations to try to design a full face helmet that isn't ridiculously heavy, and the cost differences in making something more simple and basic like this versus cameras and screens and all the other technology that you can put in them nowadays. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Please like, subscribe, and last of all, I hope you have a great day.